So Max, when did you get your first start in the birds? And please elaborate for us.
Yeah, first of all, let me say hello to all you guys. Yeah, I'm Max Bravo, and I got started in the birds when I was just a young boy. Um, it was something about the birds. Um, my dad actually gave me some racing homers and a little small dog kennel. That's what I started with. I had no boxes. I knew nothing about birds. But he gave me these white racing homers, and I thought they were very interesting. He worked at the airport, Los Angeles airport, and it was actually some really super nice racing homers because it was Queen Elizabeth. She had came to LA, and he was responsible. They let these hundreds of racing homers out. I guess to honor her, that's something they did. Of course, I was a little boy, I didn't know nothing about that. But anyway, some of the birds didn't come out, and some of them were stuck in the cages. And so he brought me these birds home. It was like 6 of them. And so I took these racing homers, and he brought me the little cage. I didn't know what to do with them. I started feeding them. I actually took the cage and put it in the garage, and I had a back door to the garage, and I started letting them out. I had no idea they were going to come back. And that was like the way I really got into pigeons.
Wow, that's a great stock to start out with. Queen Elizabeth's birds.
Yeah, and I didn't even understand the price of a bird, what a bird was worth, but I remember seeing the tag had it was a tag with the Queen, and of course I didn't know who Queen Elizabeth was. I didn't know what a racing homer was. I did know. I'll tell you an interesting story about these birds. It was they were whites, and the impression or what they were supposed to do was be all white. That was the deal. But they wasn't. They had little black smears on them, just a few. And so, at any rate, the bird became so attached to me that I remember I would walk to one of my friend's house, and the bird would follow me, pole over pole. And when I went into the house, the bird would land on the pole and wait for me to leave to go home. And of course, I had to be home before dark. And yeah, the bird would follow me home. So I thought that was interesting.
Very intelligent bird. Now, when did you get your first roller pigeon?
Well, that was interesting because I never really bought pigeons. But the racing homers was stray-in birds. So a lot of guys had birds, and in LA, it was almost everybody had birds. And that's the one thing that I liked about Los Angeles, is that people had pigeons. And when I started becoming in tune with them, I started noticing all the different colors. I strayed in a bird that I thought was a racing homer. In fact, I named the bird Racer Pacer. Just a little nickname. It was a silver red bar. And this bird rode 30 feet, and I mean super fast and just nice and cherry and out of the road. And so I really liked that. And of course, one of my friends came over to the house. Now, I don't know if it was his bird or not, but he tried to say, hey, that's my bird. You strayed my bird in, and that, I want to take it. And I didn't have experience with birds, so I gave it to him. But it came back to my house. And so when he came back to get it back, I simply told him, no, I'm not giving it to you. I'm keeping this bird. Mm-hmm. And if it was your bird, it came back to my house, it must like here, and that's when I got, I would say, introduced to my first roller, and it was a nice spinning bird. I come to find out later it was one of Pinson birds.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And so, when it comes to actually developing and flying your birds, did you have a set schedule for when you flew your racing homers or your rollers?
Yeah. Back then, I wake up before the sun come up. I couldn't sleep. I want to get up to get to my birds and to let them out. And of course, the racing homers, the whites, they, I literally love them. But the thing about them, when I let them out, I wouldn't see them for maybe 2 hours because they flew so fast and they would go up into the clouds and they would do their thing. And then finally, I'd come back out. I got used to them flying around 2 to 3 hours and they'd come down, and they would go in. And, you know, but over time, I began to find out about pet shops. And these pet shops sold birds, and you could buy a pigeon back then for $2.
And what time frame are we talking about?
This is in the late 60s, early 70s.
Okay.
Yeah. And so you could actually, buy birds. Ron and Don Pet Shop was a pet shop that some of you old school guys will remember. So let's see, I lived on, at that time, Maine and off of, in LA, Maine and like 121st Street. So we would walk. I'd have to walk to get the pigeon feed. And I found out that Ron and Don Pet Shop, they sold birds. Most of their birds was triangle, an MB-A back then. But I would go through the birds if I had a little bit of change. I'd work hard. We would cut grass and hustle bottles, whatever it took. And I would use that money to buy my birds. So slowly I built up hand-picked birds from the pet shop. And I got a lot of tumblers. It wasn't that many deep spinners, but I got a lot of tumblers, birds that just flipped. But it was amazing to do that. And I really enjoyed it, and then it kind of grew.
Okay, well that's good. And so we'll get back to finishing up, going to another segment of your illustrious roller career after these commercial breaks.